Welcome back to Fishing with Vance, the fishing channel not trying to sell you anything. On today's video, I'm going to be going over the top soft plastics that work for me in 2024 that I'll definitely be using in 2025. I'll show you a breakdown on how many fish they caught, how I rigged them, and what were the conditions, as best I can remember from 2024. So stay tuned. I'll go over my top 5 soft plastics that caught me bass last season, and I'm going to be using this season. Alright, let's take a look at the baits that work for me by the numbers in 2024 and what I'll be undoubtedly throwing in 2025. Now, this doesn't mean that these are the only 5 that I use. I throw everything that I'll try, pretty much anything. These are the ones that had the most success, and if you're new to the channel, check out the my PIP list, and what it is a list of all the lures that I threw during the season, and I kept track of what caught what. Now, there's no way that this is truly scientific, just because they all didn't get equal amount of time fished during the season. So some may have been on there for a couple of hours, and some several hours. So it's not scientific, but at the end of the day, this is what caught me fish in 2024 by the numbers. So I'm going to go in reverse order, and I'm going to go just over the top 5. Again, if you want to take a look at this, you can stop the video here, or you can go to my Facebook page, Fishing with Vance, and scroll down. You'll see where I posted the final numbers, percentages, and all that. And I'll be doing this again for 2025, and it's the old nerd accountant in me to do some type of comparison year over year of where I was. I'm looking at this quickly now, and I see I didn't catch any fish in March last year, and probably won't this year either, although it's actually really nice weather right now, finally, after a long winter. But anyway, so we'll go in reverse order. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the color I used primarily, how I rig them, and time of year where they worked better than other times of the year. I tend to be a soft plastic guy, so these are what caught me the most fish. I almost caught 500 last year. Just fell short, 494. But, all right, so that's it. So let's talk about it. We'll start with number 5, and that is the beaver rodent style bait. And here I have it here. Believe it or not, this bait has just burst onto the scene. If you're new to the channel, I just started using this a few years ago. It used to be on what I would call the JV wall, where I just had it hanging there, and then let me try it. And I tried it, and I started catching them like crazy at a place called the Swamp, where I fish a lot. And I plan on throwing this a lot this year at Lake Arthur, and really everywhere I go, because it works for me. I've been patient with it, and it has worked. I've had a number of different rodent type baits. They all work okay, but the one that tends to work for me the best is made by Yum, and it's the woolly bug, and the color is black blue shadow is the one that did the damage. And again, referring to the sheet, it caught me 46 bass. And they tend to be bigger. They tended to be bigger fish. And I usually fish this in a lake that holds a little bigger fish, like the Swamp and Lake Arthur, as opposed to a place I call Bragg, my original lake. I tend to not throw this there just because the bass, as of late, have been smaller for the most part there. But, so number 5 was this woolly bug, black blue shadow. And let me just show you how I rigged it. Pop one out here. This thing, and this is the 4-inch, I believe. Yeah, 4¼ inch. And so, I separate all the appendages so they get lots of flopping around. So just pull those apart. These things are oily as heck. And the way I rig it, and you'll see a theme for how I basically fish a lot, is some of them, most of these, but a lot of times I throw everything with a mojo. I will throw or a split shot rig It's just how I grew up fishing, and I tend to fish shallow, and it works. But what I like to match this up with, and that's a big thing for me, and I'm sure it is for most of you guys, you got to match the hook with the lure. You can throw anything, and yes, you'll catch some fish, but you know, I'm trying to maximize my opportunity out there. So what I have found, and like I said, I use this at lakes that tend to have a little bit bigger fish. I'm a big Gamakatsu hook guy, except for the wacky, which we'll get into that in a second. But for this beaver bait, or the woolly bug, I use for Gamakatsu a extra wide gap EWG, the 584-14 4/0, and that hook pairs on this very well. And I like to put the blue side up, black side down. This works in stained water because of I tend to throw darker colors in stained water, and in clear water lighter colors. But I put the black side down, and I rig it the same as anybody else with Texas rig. I would take the point of this, I don't know if you can see that, where the hook starts to bend. So from here down to the point, that's how far I'm going to go in before I start to turn. So I'll try to get it right in the center. The end game is that the hook lays in that trough after you're done. So I'm going to come down. So you want to try to get in the center. That's pretty good. Obviously this would normally have fishing line attached. And that's about all the further I want to go down. Right there, so that just the eye is coming out. And this is a good one here. So then I want this to lay in that trough. So like anything else, you kind of mark where it's going to go with your finger. Mark where it's going to go with your finger, and pop it through right in the middle, and then there it goes. And it's going to lay right in there. Now I'll text pose that so that it stays in there. Sometimes it doesn't want to, but it will. You can text pose that in there, especially where I throw it at the swamp. There's tons of weeds. But with two split shots on here, I can slide them up and down if I want to get more fall or softer, slow fall. Where this worked for me is right on the edge of a weed line and in pockets of weeds, where I would throw it on the edge of that weed line, just let it slowly fall to the bottom. And you give it just try not to, I don't reel it much. I would just pop it a couple times to sort of bring it up off the bottom and let it flutter back down again. And you know, it works for bigger fish. So like I said, it was number 5 on the list. I don't mean to keep referring to this, but it was 46 bass, and they were pretty nice ones. So there's number 5, and that's how I rig it. Mojo, this is 90% of the time. I'm not saying I never try putting a bullet weight on there and going true Texas rig. Most of the time I'm going Mojo or split shot rig and throwing that. It'll work, I'm sure, if you put a bullet weight on it too, depending on your conditions, how deep you're fishing, and so on. So, all right. So there's number 1. Or I'm sorry, number 5, the woolly bug, coming in the top 5. All right. Number 4 and number 2 are KVD Perfect Plastics, both the 5.5. I'm sorry, both the 5.5 and the 6-inch. Or what is this here? Yeah, I get these messed up. This is the 5-inch and 6.5. Yeah, 6.5. So we'll come back to those, save those for like number 2. So we'll jump over number 4, because number 4 was the 6.5-inch version, and they're rigged the same other than different hooks. So we'll talk about that and where I throw it. So let's jump from 5. Let's look at 3. So number 3 is the Senko Wacky. Now, I throw the Senko other ways, Texas and weighted, not weighted, all that stuff. But the Senko worm works, I think, for anybody. If you want to catch fish, you put on a Senko and rig it wacky, you're going to catch fish, pretty much. Now, this one caught me 59 rigged this way, so almost 60 bass during the season on this bait. Now, the color for me, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I have tons of confidence in the red shad laminate from Gary Yamamoto. So
I'll throw green pumpkin depending where I'm at. Also, darker, blacks and blues that look similar to this. But day in, day out, if I'm going to throw a Senko, I'm going to start with a red shad laminate. It just works. So another thing I like to do, if I know I'm going to be fishing a lot of wacky, I'll go ahead and rig them before I go and put the O-ring on them. You can see down there, I think. So I already have one ready to go. The O-ring's already on it. So, but nothing special there. I use a wacky tool. Every once in a while I'll do the double ring if I'm getting losing a lot of baits and cross them. But 90% of the time I'm just putting one O-ring on there. I like black. I don't like red O-rings. I don't know why. It just seems to work better with black. And then the other thing that I normally do, and I caught a lot of heat on this on a short video I did years ago, and on how I like to peg it with a good old-fashioned penny nail. There it is. Good old-fashioned finishing nail. You can buy fancy weights, but these nails you can get them at the hardware store for next to nothing, and they work just great. Now, some guys will put them in both the back and the front. I don't do that. Sometimes I don't peg it, depending on time. If I'm looking for it to slowly fall, depending on what time of year it is. In the spring, if I throw this, I definitely will peg it. In the fall, I'll definitely peg it when the fish are a little bit more aggressive. Maybe in the summertime, post-spawn, maybe in July, I won't peg it. It'll be a lot of weeds, and I'll just let it just slowly fall into those weeds and just ever so twitch the rod tip so you can get that, the ends, doing that pop pause. But all you want to do, this is nothing magical about this, is just try to get it right in the center. And guys are giving me heck about this, saying, oh, that's a Nico rig or whatever it is. I guess, I don't know, I call it a Senko with a nail in it. You want to call it the Nico rig, that's fine. I guess that would be something between a Nico rig and a wacky Neko or something. Who cares? Anyway, I put a nail in it and it'll dive, and then you still get the action with the O-ring. The hook that I like is, this is the only time, well, not the only time, but a time that I don't use Gamakatsu is I like these VMCs wacky. They're a little wider, extra wide, and they have that resin on the resin coated eye. I like that. It gives a little bit more weight. But the reason I like these is I do like that it's a little wider. They sell these with a weed guard on them. I don't like weed guards. I don't think they really do much. They help maybe a little with weed guards, and you get less hookup. So I don't use them. Now, to hook it with the O-ring there, I've seen other guys doing this, and I do it too, is the front of the worm being here, you want the hook to be towards the back. So you just put it around like that. In the middle, grab a little bit of worm, not just all O-ring. It might slide off on you. If the bass bites back here, you might lose it. And that's it. And pop that down there. I don't know if you can see that. This will always catch you fish, almost always. Like I said, others, they swear by green pumpkin or black and blue, something similar to this. For me, red shad laminate has been it. That's what probably caught of those fish on the sheet there. I would say they probably caught 90% this color. So there's my Senko wacky. Nothing magical about it, but that's the color and hook that I like to use with the weighted nail. So let's talk about number 2 and 4. Now, they're pretty much the same. Here they are. KVD Perfect Plastics. As you can see over here, I've got my share of them. The whole wall is full of them. And I do blow through them pretty good. One thing about these, they're super soft. I'm a big believer in this worm. Other worms will work too, but these ones have worked the most for me. So let's talk about the 6.5 first. Now the color that has really, all of them will work depending on the time of year and also the Water clarity, it makes a big part of it, as most of you know. But the one that has worked for me pretty much day in, day out now hasn't been the blue fleck like it's going to be for the smaller. It's this magic crawler. It has brown, blue, and it blends together. It looks like probably looks like as close a thing to an actual night crawler with this blue in there. And so this has just really been, at the swamp or really anywhere I've fished it, this has worked great. So the hook that I like to use with it is the 584-12, a little bigger than what I use for the smaller worm. It's the 2-aught, the 584-12, because again, I'm trying to match up the size of worm with the hook. Hopefully you can see that. So the way I rig it, again, I'm going to fish just 90% of the time Mojo. It's not to say I don't fish this also with a bullet weight, true Texas style. I tend to have more confidence Mojo, but I'm trying to, get away from just fishing them that way and giving them different looks by putting that bullet weight and pegging it on there. But what you want to do here is look at the flat side of the worm. Same thing. I'm going to come down as far as where the hook is going to bend, and you want to get it in the middle. So you just pull it down that far, bring it around. You got to be gentle with these because they're really soft. And normally this would have line coming out of it, of course. Then you just mark where it's going to go, and bring it through. You want to try to get it in the center because that will be best. And then also you want this to lay flat. I think flat, you'll catch fish if it's kind of wonky, but it's going to be better if it's flat. And then definitely I do a little text posing there, and there you go. 2 splitties there. You toss that out there. I've caught fish reeling this, slow retrieve. I've caught it letting it sink. Most of your strikes are to come on the initial fall, but I've actually reeled it. I've fished it as a jerkbait, pause. That works. It's tough to beat a plastic worm, and the one that works for me is KVD, and also right now Magic Crawler has been leading the way. All right, so I think that's number 4, but we're kind of going out of order, but let's get to number 2. Hard to believe, number 2. This is number 2. This used to be my number 1 go-to bait. It still is. It's the 5-inch Fat Baby Finesse plastic worm, and I would still say it's probably still my confidence bait. I don't care where I'm fishing. I could be fishing in the river for smallmouth. I've caught every single fish that I've ever caught on this. Smallmouth, largemouth, walleye, trout, everything on this Fat Baby Finesse. Now they sell the worm in regular finesse. I like the Fat Baby Finesse. They're a little heavier. I can throw a little further, and they tend to work better. So, especially in the river for smallies. But the hook that I've been using with this for the last 10 years at least is this 584-11 1-aught by Gamakatsu. And this setup on a medium light, or an ultralight or medium light, it's going to catch you lots of bass. You might get some small ones in there, but if you're just out there putting numbers up, this will work. I've caught big smallmouth with this, so it'll catch big fish too. I think I caught like a 5-pounder one time throwing this. It was the dirt color, which is probably runner-up to blue fleck. But blue fleck is still my number 1 go-to color, but dirt also works real well. Same concept here. You're just pushing it down. Now it's a smaller hook, slightly smaller than this one. It's hard to see, but it is slightly smaller. So then you're just the same thing, coming through, giving it a bend. Every once in a while I'll move it further down, but at the end of the day, you got to be gentle because these things are soft. The fish tends to, I missed the middle there. Just talking, not paying attention. Let's do it again. You want to go on the flat side. Wasn't paying attention. So there, you want to come out the flat side. You don't want to do that because it kind of ruins the integrity. Is missed, but there you go. And then you just mark where it's going, put it in the middle, throw it on there to expose. That fat baby finesse, oh man, it's probably caught me thousands of fish over the years. No exaggeration, literally thousands of bass on that setup. If you told me I have all these baits, okay, you could throw one for the rest of your life, or you have to throw one and it's the only way you're going to eat. Like, you got to, whatever you catch, you're going to eat it. Otherwise, you're not eating. I'd go with this. This catches everything. So there you go. That was my number 2. And how many fish did that catch? Yeah, that put up 68 bass. So the 6.5 inch, this guy caught 54. All right, so that's number 2. All right, so leads me to number 1. There it is. Referring to it, this was far and away almost double everything else. I mean, this thing caught 26% of the fish I caught all year, 132. And part of that was, granted, it was probably thrown more. And this one lake that I fish, I call it the Cabin Lake, its water is stained all the time. And so, for whatever reason, this double till grub in both the sapphire blue, but more importantly the PB&J, peanut butter and jelly, just catches them out there. I don't know why it is. This bait, if I go out there, I could try a million other things. I might catch something, but if I'm like, all right, I gotta put some bass in the boat, this works. So I'll throw this everywhere too. It works everywhere. But let me get one out. PB&J, we'll do a sapphire. All right, so the way I rigged this one is a little different. You can rig this one with this Gamakatsu hook over here. It would work, but I tend to not throw it with that unless I'm in a really weedy situation. If it's real weedy, I'll rig it the same as I rigged this, but where I'm fishing this, there's no weeds. I'm going to throw this for smallmouth this year and see. I've never thrown it for smallmouth, which is probably silly. I probably should. But what I use for it is these, I don't want to say cheap because they work well, these Arky jigs. And these are the lighter ones. These are the, I like the ones that are a 32nd ounce. And because I like that slow fall. I don't want anything too heavy. And this is pretty simple. This, you don't need any split shots or anything. I do this exposed hook. So it doesn't matter what side. I'm going to end up wanting to come out the middle here, right at the, for lack of a better term, where it splits, or the crotch, or whatever you want to call it, like right there. So again, down the middle, and this time you're just feeding it down until you're going to be able to bring the point out. And then these things have a little keeper on it. I already did show you that's right there, little keeper. And you just shove that up in there. And I go with exposed hook. Every once in a while I'll take a pair of pliers and bend that down a little bit. If that one, see how it's kind of sticking up in the air, hard to see, I'll take a pair of pliers and bend it so it's more parallel to the lure. This one, again, it caught the most fish last year, and I'm sure it will again this year. This one has that nice fall. I like the twin tail. Those tails are going crazy. You can just pop this, raise it all the way at the bottom, let it fall back down, raise it all the way at the bottom, let it fall back down. Caught a ton that way. Sometimes they hit it on the initial throw. And you got to be careful throwing this around too close to laydowns and timbers, because you're going to lose it. You got exposed hook, but you kind of know your lake and you know where the laydowns are. Definitely can fish the edges of them, no problem. If the laydowns are, you're getting hung up all the time, you can always switch over to this type of setup. I don't feel this works as well on this lure. It doesn't work as well as the Arky jig head. So this catches fish. Definitely going to throw this for smallies this year. So there you have it. There's my top 5 for 2024. And they will definitely see a lot of time on the end of the line in 2025. I'm getting excited now. It's almost time to start fishing, so stay tuned for the fishing videos. I'll probably do a few more videos before then as I start to there goes my phone, as I continue to modify my bass radar and getting ready for the actual season. Yesterday, and I already did a video on this, so I didn't show you. Yesterday I went through, got all my trolling motors out and my Honda motor, pulled the props off. The one motor had all kind of fishing line in it, so I pulled that all off, got those maintenance. All the poles have been lined for the most part, relined all those, did maintenance on those, and then go from there. I'm going to start getting into catfishing a little bit, so I've been putting together some catfish gear because I'm going to start really trying to improve as a cat fisherman. So, but that doesn't mean I won't be going for bass on that Pelican Bass Raider. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. How do you rig these? What are your top 5 baits? I'd love to hear from you. It's early March, so probably about a month from now. Opening day of trout here is the 5th here in PA of April. So I'll be rolling big time. I'll probably go fish off the bank a little bit between now and then, but come April, it'll be lots of fishing. So stay tuned. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you next time on Fishing with Vance.